Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Joy in the Ordinary. I hope you're having a wonderful day. In today's episode, I wanted to take a moment to share my testimony and kind of explain how the idea of this podcast came to be. So, where do I begin? I grew up in a Christian home, blessed with a beautiful childhood. I had the privilege of always being involved in church and in the ministry. My husband and I got married at 18, and we've been blessed with three beautiful children. And in the midst of all this change and growing up, really, we slowly stopped going to church. Even though I wasn't going to church on a regular basis, I could always see God's presence in our lives, in the way He would guide us and always provide for our family. In reality, from the outside looking in, everything's fine. Everything's perfect. Until one day, I started to feel different. It was a feeling I couldn't quite explain. I would close my eyes and I could see myself slowly drifting away into the ocean, slowly being pulled further and further away by the waves. And that was it. That's what I felt and that's what I pictured. And I wanted to know more. I wanted to know, where is this coming from? It was a very calming feeling, but unsettling at the same time. It's scary because I'm like relaxed in the waves, but slowly being pulled further and further deeper into the ocean. I wanted to know where this feeling was coming from and how could I get rid of it. I could not shake it. Weeks went by. I kept feeling like this. I go to my first resort, my husband. I remember explaining it to him, and his response was, "Yeah, me too." So I was like, okay, this can't be good. Because if I feel like this and you feel like this, then how are we going to find answers? Where is this coming from? What does this mean? So naturally, I go to my mom and I tell her, Mom, I've been feeling like this drifting away feeling. I don't know what it means, but it's bothering me. I was expecting my mom to tell me that everything was gonna be okay, that everything was gonna be fine, and for her to give me the answer to why I was feeling like that. But instead, I got the complete opposite. My mom said, "Me too." And to top it all off, she mentions that she's been speaking with my grandma and that she's been a little bit on the downside as well. I started to picture a life where my family did not have God in the middle. And let me tell you, it was a scary, scary thought. Because deep down inside, I always knew maybe I'm not 100% with God, but I know my grandma and my mom and my tias are. And when things get tough in life, I knew I could always run to them and God would hear them, that they would be there for me, to pray for us, and to help us. So, picturing a life where I did not have them to run to was a scary, scary thought. So, I go home and naturally, I go to my last resort, which should be our first. But in my situation, I left God as last. I go to my office and I get my Spanish Bible that I had not opened in about 2 or 3 years. I sit down and I say, Lord, I don't know what this feeling means, but I don't like it. Lord, this life that seems perfect on the outside, why is it making me feel like this? Why am I always overwhelmed and stressed? And I'm tired of feeling like this. I say, God, I'm going to open this Bible. I'm going to pick a random page, a random verse. Where my finger lands, ahí está mi respuesta. I open the Bible, and the first thing I read is, I cried out to the Lord because of my affliction, and he answered me. When I read that verse, I automatically felt God was telling me, I'm listening. So I continued reading. I called to you from the land of the dead, and Lord, you heard me. You threw me into the ocean depths, and I sank down to the heart of the sea. The mighty waters engulfed me. I was buried beneath your wild and stormy waves. Then I said, O Lord, you have driven me from your presence. Yet I will look once more towards your holy temple. I sank beneath the waves, and the waters closed over me. Seaweed wrapped itself around my head. I sank down to the very roots of the mountains. I was imprisoned in the earth, whose gates locked shut forever. But you, O Lord my God, snatched me from the jaws of death. As my life was slipping away, I remembered the Lord. When I read those verses, I could feel God's presence in the room with me. I could feel God telling me that He's been with me this whole time. And I finally understood that drifting away in the ocean, the waves, it was me going further and further away from God. There came a point when I realized I couldn't do it on my own anymore. And that's when I gave it to God. And the beautiful thing is when you give your problems to God, you no longer feel anxious about the future. Instead, you look forward to the future with excitement because you trust that God is in control. Our problems don't just disappear, but God changes our perspective. He gives us the ability to experience joy in the middle of all the mess. But here's the thing, surrendering to God is just the beginning. There's a lot of work to be done. Finding joy in our everyday means having a relationship with Jesus. It's staying connected to Him, learning from Him, and trusting Him every day. This isn't going to be a quick fix or a one-time thing, but a lifelong journey. And I'm excited. I started this podcast because I want to document everything God shows me. Every lesson, every blessing, every understanding of who He is. I want to be able to look back and see how much I've grown. And I also want to share it because God's love is meant to be shared. So, as we close today's episode, I want to leave you with this. Joy in the ordinary is possible, but it starts with surrender. It starts with giving God control, trusting Him with your future, and allowing Him to change your perspective. It means developing a deep relationship with God and learning from Him every day. And here's the best part, there's so much joy ahead. God has incredible things in store for us. When we trust Him and walk in faith, the future is full of hope and excitement and joy. Every day is an opportunity to see His goodness in new ways. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I'm super excited for what's to come. And I hope this encourages you to seek out joy in your own life, right where you are. Until next time, and remember, when God's in control, there's joy to be found in every single moment.